Have you ever wondered how your child learns? Or why some folks are underperformers? Well, this journey you're on will magically explore learning, which is normally defined as a change in behavior. We are ready to roll. Yes, we are. We're going to be exploring three theories in this project: behaviorism, constructivism, and cognitivism. We sometimes refer to these three theories as the Big Three. My child will do anything for a candy. I'm sure yours too. Well, behaviorism explains that we all learn once we're motivated with reinforcers or with the use of punishment. This is known as operant conditioning. The theory also speaks about the use of associations performed through classical conditioning. Drilling and practice are also strategies from this theory. This is a classroom that uses operant conditioning. Learners are motivated with rewards such as toys and treats and praises and positive phone calls home. On some occasions, punishment may be used to reduce an undesirable behavior. I don't want to be spanked, I'll do it. Teachers very often use classical conditioning. For example, when teachers use music and pair it with pleasant activities and then use it in the classroom to help to reduce students' testing anxiety, that's an example of using classical conditioning. Oh, we're building. That's a beautiful building. Constructivism is a philosophy of learning in which the learners construct their own understanding of the world. In constructivism, learners are socializing, discovering, using their experiences, and transferring knowledge. In constructivism, students learn by doing things. Way to go! Cognitivism is a response to behaviorism. They reject the notion that stimuli, response, reinforcers, and associations are the only factors involved in learning. The brain, they argue, is an explanation for how learners retain, process, store, and apply information. Principles of behaviorism. Learners are channeled to show measurable outcomes. Learning takes place through rewards, punishment, and making associations. I know you're going to love this. In using the constructivist approach, go ahead and read the slide on the principles of constructivism and construct your own unique meanings. You can do this. Phrases that capture the cognitivist principles are developmental stages, role of the brain, cognitive processing, metacognition, and structuring, organizing, and sequencing information to foster optimal processing.
Let's discuss the role of the learners in each of the big three theories. The role of the behaviorist learner is more passive in the learning process. Their behavior is conditioned by the instructor through rewards or punishment to attain the desired learning outcomes. They react to the conditions of the learning content and demonstrate a level of performance on the targeted goals and objectives. Cognitivist learners are very active participants in the learning process. Learners focus on strategies for internal learning and thinking processes, which include problem solving, organizing information, and developing self-monitoring skills. Learners should organize information for successful processing into long-term memory and recall. The constructivist learners are not passive receivers of knowledge. Instead, they are active participants in the learning process in knowledge construction. The responsibility has shifted to the learner to question new information and assess its importance. The learner elaborates upon and interprets the given information. Let's talk about the roles of instructors and trainers in the big three learning theories. The behaviorist instructor assesses the learners to determine prior knowledge for the purpose of identifying where to begin instruction. The data is also used to determine which reinforcers and strategies will be most effective for specific students to get the desired responses. Teachers arrange environmental conditions so that students respond properly to the presented stimuli. Frequent monitoring and feedback is provided to the learners regarding the appropriateness of the behavior. The feedback either reinforces learning behaviors or determine consequences in the form of corrective actions for the learners to achieve the desired performance. The cognitivist instructors are responsible for creating learning experiences that are meaningful. Their role is to help learners organize and relate new information to existing knowledge, abilities, and experiences in memory for successful processing and to long-term memory and recall. The role of a cognitivist instructor also includes understanding that individuals bring various learning experiences to the learning situation, which can impact the learning outcomes. They also arrange practice with feedback so that the new information is effectively and efficiently assimilated and accommodated within the learner's cognitive structure. The instructor's role in the constructivist learning theory is to instruct the learner on how to construct meaning as well as how to effectively monitor, evaluate, and update constructed knowledge. The instructors also align and design experiences for the learner that are authentic and relevant to the context. The instructor takes a back seat and becomes a facilitator. They allow the learners to input which information is relevant to their learning. They also promote collaboration with other students to show multiple perspectives within a particular problem.
Now that we know more about the theories, let's find out who's behind them. One of the best-known behaviorists is B.F. Skinner and his Mice and Pigeons, where we learned more about operant conditioning and schedules of reinforcement. No lesson about behaviorists could leave out Ivan Pavlov and his salivating dog when we explore the classical conditioning. Edward Thorndike continued to study operant conditioning using, of all creatures, a cat. The quicker the cat escapes from the puzzle box, the quicker it gets the food, and the law of effect is born. Reaction times get better with practice. As we move into the cognitivists, one of the most famous, whom we're sure you'll all remember from undergrad, is Jean Piaget and his work with the 4 stages of development. Alfred Bandura is another name familiar to educators. He taught us that children not only respond to classical and operant conditioning, but they also learn from observing others. Robert Gagne is our link between the cognitivist and the constructivist. His 9 events of instruction started a movement. Von Glasersfeld is a radical constructivist who believed everything we know is filtered through our own reality. Jean Lave, an anthropologist, and Etienne Wenger, an educator, posited that learning is social and cannot be removed from its social context. Learning happens while we practice. The latest movers and shakers in the constructivist movement are the teams of Dean and Schuler and Sharples, Wavula, and Taylor. As relatively new kids on the block, they're studying how mobile learning affects the learner, the learning environment, and the very context of what learning means. The Big Three didn't get to be the Big Three by accident. Let's look at some of the strengths of each. Behaviorism is great for rote learning and memorization. Multiplication tables, anyone? Behaviorism focuses on generalization. If I learn to manipulate a zipper, I can zip my jacket, my backpack, and my pants all by myself. Behaviorism supports associations and explanations. I think we can all recite the water cycle just like we learned to in 5th grade. Yay for chaining! That's those things we do automatically, like brushing our teeth or washing our hands. They're actually pretty complicated multi-step processes. Cognitivism is great for structuring and remembering. Please, my dear Aunt Sally, anybody? Yep, mnemonic device and a great example of cognitivism at work. Constructivism is all about that advanced knowledge. When you apply what you know, it's awesome for exploration and is an excellent prep in apprenticeships or in the study of being a doctor or a lawyer or a teacher. But into every theory, some rain must fall. Let's look at some weaknesses. Behaviorists can account for what they can observe. What goes on inside your head is a part of their purview. Those building blocks in the mind don't get any attention. So this theory isn't great for higher order thinking. everything in cognitivism goes on in the mind, so it's not observable. Cognitivism is pretty subjective. We can argue all day about the way we see things. Cognitivism also tends to ignore outside factors that may be influencing learning, such as socioeconomic status, prior knowledge, or cultural influence. One of the drawbacks to constructivism is that you have to know things to construct knowledge. Our society values basic knowledge, and our K-12 education is underpinned by standardized testing, neither of which plays well with a purely constructivist approach. Other drawbacks is that certain learners need much more structure than this approach provides.
In this presentation, we discuss the big three learning theories: behaviorism, cognitism, and constructivism. These learning theories provide us with verified instructional strategies and techniques for facilitating learning, as well as the foundation for intellect strategy selection. Although the learning theories have different perspectives, there are some strategies that are overlapped in certain instances. We examine the roles for both learners and instructors, as well as the pros and cons of each learning theory. Being knowledgeable about each of the theories will allow instructors to be flexible and pull strategies from each theory based on the circumstances, such as the background and abilities of learners, as well as the skills they would like their learners to obtain. In closing, no one learning theory is better than the other. The instructor must choose the theory and the associated strategies that will foster mastery of specific tasks by specific learners.